So Microtech has released 3 Mini RAM-LOK knives this year. We got the M-Stitch, the Amphibian Mini, and the MSI Mini. Today, they're going to go head-to-head across 10 categories, and by the end, we'll decide which one deserves a spot in your pocket. Your opinions might not be the exact same as mine, but I think this will be helpful for everyone so they can kind of get the pros and cons of each knife. Now, I let the newness wear off. Contrary to some opinions, I actually find sometimes it's harder to be unbiased when it's products that I've bought. I've purchased all of these. I'm a Microtech fan. When you get something new, you spend a good amount of money on it, you kind of have, rose-colored glasses on, and it takes a little while to find all the pros and cons. As opposed to when something's sent to you, the value is lower, and I think it's easier to just look at it through a clearer lens right out of the gate. But that's a topic for another video. So 10 different categories that are going to cover all kinds of different things that have to do with performance, action, looks, things of that nature. Let's dive into it. Right out of the gate, let's start with ergonomics. I think that the Amphibian Mini here feels great. It really locks your hand in. The ergonomics on this are better than I expected it to be. You can hold it with your thumb back here, or you can put your thumb up here because you got this poon action right here with a little bit of jimping. It's a very ergonomic knife and fits my hand really well. The M-Stitch is pretty ergonomic as well, but it's just a little different. You can hold it down here and still get 4 fingers on it, barely, and that feels pretty good. You can even put your thumb up there, or you can choke all the way up, which feels really good. You got some jimping right there and jimping right there, and that one feels ergonomic as well. No hot spots on this. I really like the clip that Microtech is doing with the Mini RAM-LOK knives. Also, I know that there's an LUDT coming soon too. Maybe that could be put in the mini category because I don't think it's too big, and I'll try to get my hands on one of those when it is available. But they did something weird with the clip for lefties, so to be continued. Now, with the MSI, I think it's ergonomic and it feels good, but I think the other two feel slightly better. It's not that any of these are bad, but I find with this one, I feel the pocket clip just a little bit more. And this piece right here, all right, while you can choke up like that, I don't really like it. I feel like it's almost wasting some space on the handle. I know that that's classic MSI styling and design, but just something worth mentioning. None of these are bad when it comes to ergonomics, so I'm splitting hairs here. But I gotta put, in this round, I'm going Amphibian Mini first with ergos, all right? And then number 2, I'm going M-Stitch, because you can hold it like this or choke up like that. And then number 3, the MSI Mini. All right. But like I said, we're splitting hairs here. None of these I would say have bad ergonomics. Number 2 category is the cutting performance. These blades vary wildly. Like you got a sort of spear point, kind of clip point situation with the MSI with this recurve blade. And it gets pretty thick through here and has a nice tough edge. The stitch here is really thin at the tip, and that makes me slightly nervous. You know, it's a very thin tip, but the tip is still pretty low with this kind of clip point, spear point design. And you can still do some good work with it like this, more detailed cuts than something like the Amphibian. The MSI, however, is my favorite in this category with that reverse tanto shape. You know, you can really get your tip down low. It's great for slicing. It's great for detailed cuts. Definitely the most utilitarian blade shape here, and just great for all-around EDC. Now, again, this is opinion-based. Depending on what you use your pocket knives for, you might totally disagree here, but for my use case, I'm going number 1, MSI Mini, so that gets 3 points. Number 2, the M-Stitch, so that gets 2 points. And then number 3, the Amphibian Mini. Amphibian Mini is still a great blade shape. It's got a nice belly, but the tip's kind of high for those detailed cuts. It's got that recurve, so it depends on what you're using it for. Kind of a mix of, tactical or hard utility, cuts where you got that nice belly for different things and good for draw cuts because of that recurve. But I tend to like the tip being a little bit lower than what we see on this guy. Number 3 is carry, the pocket footprint. Now, the smallest knife here is the M-Stitch, but I'm not crazy about this right here. It doesn't carry as deep as you can see. All right. And then you got that kind of point at the bottom, but still you can't deny it's the lightest carry. But in this category, I prefer the MSI Mini the most for carry. It's kind of the medium-sized knife here between the three. Gets nice and deep with that deep carry clip, and then that gets 3 points. 2 points, I'm going to give it to the M-Stitch here, and 1 point, I'm going to give it to the Amphibian Mini. All of these carry just fine. They're not super huge knives, but the Amphibian Mini is slightly bigger than the others, so that's just kind of how we're weighting it here. So you can see there what it would look like in the pocket. None of them are bad. So this is very, very close. Next up, we're talking about action. Now, there's a huge loser in this category, and it is the M-Stitch. It does, especially with this apocalyptic blade, have a little bit of grittiness to it. Now, over time, I've worked that out, and it does get smoother and smoother, but you can still feel it more than any of these other knives. Something I really want to double down here on the RAM-LOK is that I think people go into buying one of these thinking it's going to be just like a crossbar lock, and it's not. The feeling is different from a crossbar lock, and it takes a lot of working in, for my opinion. I've had the MSI here for about 4 months. When I first got it, it felt pretty stiff. I didn't mind it, but now it's broken in and it feels fantastic, and it's got a good amount of tension, more than most crossbar locks. So you got to be okay with that. I mean, keep in mind, it's just a different design. You have a coil spring right here and then a block right here, and that is a very, very strong lock. And so to hold it back, and then that block is running along the blade tang there when it closes, it's just not going to feel as smooth right out of the gate. But out of all of them, the M-Stitch definitely has the worst action, not just because of the grittiness. I also like the RAM-LOK better with thumb studs than with a flick hole. And while it's fine, and again, it's getting better and better, it's just not as smooth. And even my full-size stitch, it's kind of, it's got probably the strongest detent, like you would call it, even though it's not a true detent on a RAM-LOK, but it doesn't have the, super smooth open and close feel. So no problem whipping it out and closing it, but it's just not as good as the other two. Let me know in the comments what you think. Like, if you have a stonewash finish, is yours pretty smooth compared to maybe or maybe you've tried both compared to the apocalyptic finish? I think that's most of the issue, is that they have that rougher finish along here, and then it's rubbing up against that block, and so it feels a little bit grittier out of the gate. So let me know what you guys think. For me, it's not like a deal breaker. I don't expect RAM-LOKs to just have the most super fidgety action that people might expect from a crossbar lock, but definitely worth pointing out. Another big issue that I have with this full-size stitch and this one is that I end up cutting myself because I have bigger hands. I'm holding it like this to flick out. Then sometimes when I go to whip it and close it, it catches my hand right there. I think people with smaller hands, they're able to maybe hold it farther down here and not going to have an issue like that. But, with larger hands, I find that it's easy to just bite myself right there. And you can see right there, I have some war wounds from it. The full-size stitch and the full-size MSI did this to me a bit too, but this one definitely bites my hand up, and I find that I have to really be careful of how I'm closing it. The one with the best action to me is the MSI Mini, so I'm giving this the 3 points. Number 2, and not a slouch whatsoever, is the Amphibian Mini. It felt pretty damn good right out of the box, and just very, very fidgety to me. Tiny bit of lock stick. It's mostly gone away, but I can still feel it. But I think I still like the thumb studs better on the MSI compared to on this one, but these two are close. I think the M-Stitch is a distant third, though. Number 5, lock access. Now, you would think that it's all the same, right? Because they all have the same lock. But again, this one is harder for me to unlock because it's so short, because you have this thinner handle down here, and that is why it's easy for me to clip myself like so. And, I think this is a good, example of blade to handle ratio sometimes can go overboard. Like, give us a little more handle, to me, that's my opinion. And I also think sometimes a wider handle at the bottom is better. Not just because of ergonomics or something and it doesn't go slipping out of your hand, but also over time, when you go to sharpen it, if you do a lot of sharpenings on this, that blade could potentially lift up on you. So I know this is the stitch design, but a little bit wider down here, I think, would have been better. On this category, lock access, I really think the easiest one to unlock is the MSI Mini. Number 2 will go with the Amphibian Mini, and then the M-Stitch is last. Number 6, build quality. Like I said, they're all good, but I think we really got to knock this one for having that grittier action. They all are centered, right? The handles all look great, but for this category, I'm going again, MSI Mini first. I also think the lock has a little bit more lockup, like it locks up a little bit later, which makes it feel a bit more solid. So I'm going 3 points to the MSI Mini, 2 to the M Stitch. This just has more lock stick than the MSI Mini ever did, okay? But again, it's not bad. I don't really mind it, but worth pointing out, and I wish it maybe locked up a tiny bit later, although all these are going to be very solid. And then number 3, or last with 1 point, is the M Stitch here. I think that they needed to bury this blade tip a little bit more here for people that could potentially, be sharpening this a lot. And just that gritty action definitely docks the points. Number 7, handle design. We're going more for aesthetics here. We already talked about ergonomics. My favorite is the Amphibian Mini here. I really like the look of this handle. Also, they make a fluted version now that just looks badass. And it just really feels good. It locks you in. I love the look of the backspacer on this as well. I like this knife a lot more than I was expecting. I like the little cutout right there. Very, very cool handle design. You got a little bit of a guard right there and a guard up front, and you just feel really locked in. And I just think the design is cool. I like the handle design. We're not focusing on the blade here. I like the handle design on this one. Number 2, which gets 2 points, the MSI Mini. It's more of a neutral handle design. You can get this in a fluted now as well, which I definitely think looks a little bit better than the Frag. It looks cool, more utilitarian, kind of more simple, all right? But we're giving that number 2. And then number 3, I'm going with the M Stitch here, just because, like I said, I don't really like the way it thins out down here. I know that's just part of the stitch design, but I'm just not a huge fan of that design. Number 8, blade design. Here is where I think the Stitch wins. It's a really freaking cool design, right? Obviously more of a tactical look, super duper slicey blade, but it's just really cool. I love the apocalyptic finish look on this, and a really useful finger choil. Just going looks here, I gotta give number 1 to the Stitch. 2 points to the MSI Mini blade design. I honestly like this without the black. When I bought it, it was actually, I think, an apocalyptic finish, and they accidentally sent me the black one. But I think it's a really cool looking utilitarian design, kind of simple, but useful, and I think it just fits the handle well. So as far as aesthetics go, I'm definitely going number 2, the MSI Mini. And number 3, I think that the Amphibian Mini just kind of looks like a gas station knife. Although it is very useful, it's just kind of got that tactical look to it. But again, it doesn't mean that it's not useful for some folks, depending on what you're going to use it for. You got a strong tip, you got that nice recurve for pull cuts, and a lot of belly. But just as far as aesthetics go, I got to make this last place. Number 9, value. And we're calling this a wash because these are all basically the same. They all start out at like $275. Then it's a little bit more if you get a black blade here. Now, let's talk about that just in comparison to the market as a whole. There's not a lot other than like Kershaw Bel Airs with aluminum handles. Not a lot at this price range that's USA made. All right. Now I know like obviously Spyderco, you can get some really nice knives for low 200s. Most of those are G10. There's a few other USA made knives out there in the mid 200s, but just comparing it to the rest of the market, I'm not going to say it's well priced, and I'm not going to say it's necessarily badly priced. Definitely the Bel Air is one of the best priced USA made knives out there for, quality and fit and finish, but it is a simpler design, and that crossbar lock's just not as robust as something like this. There's a little bit less that goes into those. So I'm not going to say these are a great value. I'm not going to say that they're necessarily a bad value when comparing it to other knives on the market. If you want to say all USA made knives are expensive, then sure, that makes total sense. But when comparing this to other knives on the market, these are probably priced around where they should be, but I would love them to come out with some cheaper G10 or even polymer versions that make it around that 200 range. Because actually, the polymer that Microtech uses on their full MSI is really nice. And then people could just buy their own scales later on if they wanted to anyway. One thing I do think is overpriced is their titanium versions of these, where they go and charge you like double sometimes more than that, just for a titanium handle instead of a aluminum handle, even though the blade material and everything else is the same. Maybe the accents, the hardware is a little different, but those ones seem overpriced to me. I think the titanium should be like high 300s, maybe 400 tops. Now, finally, versatility. If I could only own one, which would I pick and what handles most situations for me? Keep that in mind. If you're somebody that's like, in the military or something, you might want something that's a little bit more tactical, obviously, for varying reasons. But for my use case, and probably most of you out there, I really think the MSI Mini just fits the bill the best. It is a very utilitarian blade shape, great for EDC, great for slicing. You can get some nice detailed cuts, and that tip is very useful. So I'm going with the MSI. If I'm going to buy another one of these, I'm picking the MSI. Probably going to be a fluted version. I think the Amphibian Mini here is number 2 when it comes to versatility. Has some tactical elements to it, a very strong tip on that recurve blade, but still really nice and useful for EDC as well. So I'm giving this my number 2 spot. And then in last, the stitch is fine, right? It's still good for EDC at this size. It's very, very slicey, but I kind of worry about that tip strength. And while I think it's super cool and aggressive looking, and I'm going to continue carrying this, I'll just say the cutting my hand with this thing has definitely killed some of my experience with it, where I have to go and be worried how I close it every time I close it. Hope that makes sense. All of these are good. I don't regret, any of these purchases, but, again, we're ranking them. If I buy a second one, I'm getting the MSI Mini. And overall, with the point system, the MSI has 23 points, the Amphibian Mini has 17 points, and the M-Stitch has 14 points. So let me know what you guys think if you've bought any of these. What are your experiences with it? I think it's very cool that Microtech has made mini versions of these knives. I like them. I'm going to use them more than their full-size versions just because it fits my lifestyle more. Once in a while, maybe camping, stuff like that, hiking, I'll carry like my full-size MSI or Stitch, but just for everyday carry, I really think that these knives and their sizes fit the bill great. So I'll put a link in the description for where you can pick these up. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and check out one of my other videos. That about wraps it up. Until next time, thanks for watching.